And now, coming to you live, it's supposed to be happening now, the EdTech Situation Room for April 6th, 2016. This is Wes Fryer being cloned in my house by the magic of technology with one good camera and one fuzzy one. I am the Director of Technology at Cassidy School currently, missing Jason Neiffer, but miraculously, thanks to Twitter and his general awesomeness, joined by John Samuelson. John, tell our cast of thousands who you are and what you do now.
Okay, well, I am John Samuelson, formerly iPad Sammy on the Twitter, and I am a innovation strategist, Wes, for the Beaverton School District in Beaverton, Oregon, just a stone's throw away from Portland, Oregon.
Now, before we get into EdTech news, we'll just have to note that John is one of the most courageous adults I know, because he just pulled up the stakes, sold the house, and said Northwest or bust. And really, since the actual Oregon Trail in the mid-1800s, we haven't seen this kind of courage coming out of the state of Texas. So, John, what would you say your advice to others who have wild ideas like, I need to go move to Oregon or Washington? What's your advice for them?
I know, you know what, and I see that the Tech with Chad is talking about Carl Hooker, who is my former boss, and if he loves Carl Hooker, then maybe he should wait off air, and I'll tell him some stories about Carl Hooker, and he might have a different opinion of him. But no, but seriously, I started to, I took a job with a startup company, and I've been teaching for 18 years. I thought maybe I could take a chance, and what you find out is that people in the business world really don't know as much as you thought they did. And so the company just kind of sputtered out. I had no job, so we sold our house and we moved up to Portland kind of blind. And I knew Tim Lauer, and I knew Melissa Lim, and I knew Allison Anderson, and I knew Darren Hudgens and Sean Williams. And I thought, okay, if I can't get a job up here, then I think I'll sub until I get a job up here. Luckily, I got a job with Corinne Richards and in Beaverton, and it's a great job. I jumped right into a job, Wes, we just yesterday, I think we've just made the agreements where we will actually now, we've been renting this kind of, I don't know, small place, and we're going to have a house that will fit all of my kids, because I have 4 of them. So it was a lot to sell all your stuff, but I took the chance. So that's my little story of my last 2 years. As soon as I walk in that house, I'll feel like I accomplished something.
Oh,
it was
my
a struggle,
gosh.
but it was worth it. Yeah, I know that we've talked before. I know that you've had. I mean, everybody. Life isn't life without the struggle, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, definitely, we could do a whole show on that. Well, Carl Hooker was actually at our school last week. We had him come out to talk about digital citizenship, and so that was quite good. And we meet at Mobile Learning, but I wasn't at the very first one. I think I came to the second one.
You weren't at the first one. I went to all of them. The first one was it was 5 years ago today, and because I got it on my Facebook flashback, and it was so interesting.
Is Tony going to do it again this year? Because I know it's kind of been up in the air, and it's definitely not, huh? Oh.
I just think it's definitely not for right now. I just think it's definitely not in that Arizona. I really take my hat off to the Arizona K-12 Center. I love all the stuff they do. And then unfortunately, they used to do, they're still doing it, this week-long camp plug and play. And I did it last year with John Spencer.
It's awesome.
It's so awesome. And then the thing is, like this year, we go to school so late in Oregon, and they finish so early in Arizona. It's actually my last week of school, so I can't even, I've been to that for the last 3 years too.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that Tony, after he moved, I mean, he had to kind of take a step back. You can't, work out of the Arizona K-12 Center and live in Council Bluffs, Iowa. So I think that's fun.
Yep. So we're going to jump into some EdTech news. One of the things that is kind of cool on Blab is you can share the last 30 seconds. I don't know, it's on the desktop version or whatever, and it'll take a little, kind of GIF screenshot. So I'm going to attempt to do that. It's like, I'll tell you one thing Carl Hooker did very effectively. There's my daughter jumping into my web show. That's okay. was talk about there is no real multitasking. There's just task switching. He had us try to draw a circle with our hand and then start to draw a square, with the other hand. And you're like, maybe you can train yourself to do that. Anyway, so feel like I'm definitely going to press the boundaries here, as we always do with all these devices. But hey, and if you're out there watching and you would like to join us, we would love to give you our other seat here on the EdTech Situation Room. So have you heard of the show or checked it out before, John? It's okay if not.
Wes, I have to confess, I didn't even follow you on Blab until just now. And I love everything you do. And in fact, what I was doing just this week is I was really pumping up your wife, and I was saying, Shelly does this great thing with the Opinion app, and I've been showing that to the teachers. Gosh, that Opinion app I don't know why I haven't been using that. I've been doing the GarageBand upload to SoundCloud, and I've been doing all this other stuff. Why have I not been using the Opinion app? And I used Shelly's model from her school, and hers is incredible. I loved it. So yeah, hopefully we can start replicating this. But right, it's kind of funny because I was just talking about Shelly last week and this week, and I've been showing it to teachers. So yeah, tell her I said hello.
I will, and she is she's going to be presenting at iPad Palooza this year, and podcasting is kind of her thing. I mean, there's different niches that people have, and I love podcasts. There's so much I've learned. And taking it to the student level, and it's kind of neat because her room is literally room 108, and Bob Sprankle was room 208, and it's kind of that push that paying it forward. There's so much inspiration that I've received over the years from other folks, podcasting, and so anyway, it's pretty cool. Well, I
feel like it just makes you smarter, right? I mean, if you talk to good people,
Oh yeah.
I feel like I can go into it. Like I just uploaded Amy Berval was the last Techlandia. Have you talked to Amy Berval before?
She was a guest presenter in my K-12 online keynote 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I've never met her in person, but yeah, she's somebody I followed who's like, talk about just oozing creativity. Like, she's absolutely amazing. There's not many folks like her. So anytime you get to touch her brain with ideas and just, be influenced is like amazing. So, all right.
Yeah, so that was good. Yeah, that's what I say. So it's like the more people like Amy Berval that I can meet, and I mean, Carl Hooker, he's kind of okay, but right, the more you meet these people and the more you talk with them, like it just helps you grow. I mean, it's the always learning kind of thing.
Absolutely. I think Tech with Chad's asking for contact info. So yeah, her Twitter handle. Yeah, drop it in. Okay, well, we are supposed to be the EdTech Situation Room. That means we talk about technology news. So here we go. Jason had dropped in a bunch of links, but I think I will. I'll go to the first one, which was from none other than Edward Snowden. And Snowden. Why is this link broken?
I think he might have taken that one down. I think I saw that one. Though.
Did he? No. Okay, it is. Yeah. So he said, journalists, remember the government argued for months this was impossible despite expert consensus. U.S. says it hacked iPhone without Apple ending lawsuit. Retweeted 10,488 times and liked 9,543. So what are they? I'm going to just throw this one to you, John, and then I'll tune in. What do you think we should be concluding or thinking about with regard to encryption, with regard to surveillance? Are there any lessons learned for us as educators, and even maybe thinking about STEM or thinking about the way that coding, fits in? What do you think we have to learn from the whole iPhone hack, FBI, Apple stuff?
I think the thing that it did for me is I think I kind of like to live in my own little kind of world of innocence. I think that I like to think that I'm a pretty honest guy, and I live by like kind of a code where, I like to think the best of people. I mean, I really do. Even though I have a show with Scott Bebby called Grumpy Old Teachers, where we like to grouch about things or whatever. I like to think that I'm pretty positive as far as things. And boy, once I started seeing that Apple, like, we're gonna, like, we want everything, we want all your data, it really started to scare me, because then it started to open my eyes a little bit and be like, wow, they can really track this out. Like, you don't think when you have your iPhone that you're like, okay, I'm going to allow this app to use my location, but they can use your location. I mean,
oh gosh.
Jason, I please like me a message.
Sorry, I was trying to get Jason in again. He tried to call. I think I might be clicking the wrong thing. Well, the irony in this whole FBI deal was that it was Apple actually defending First Amendment rights, and then the FBI saying, you don't need no encryption. We need to be able to look at everything. And Jason's talked on the show. We've only had six episodes. We've tried to be weekly. We haven't quite done that, but he's talked a lot about sessions he's been doing on the Google history. So google.com/history, and at least Google's really forthright about everything they record and everything they let you, or what they're collecting and what you have essentially authorized them to collect. What's one of the things that's freaked Jason out has been every time he calls or uses voice recognition, it's all recorded. Like you can play that back. And anyway, if you talk about live casting and anyway, all of your stuff, a quick story I'll share. There's a gentleman in my men's group at church on Fridays who was in the Army for years, Vietnam vet, river rat, very salty guy, worked for Lockheed for years. And before they captured Osama bin Laden, he had talked about how if somebody that the U.S. is watching just turns on their phone, boom, then, drone strike, $70,000 harm missile, whatever, it is just shocking what kinds of location data as well as other information that we're sharing. So I guess I would chime in for this that technology can be used for good or for evil. Helping students make good choices is essential, but, limiting the power of the state is really a fundamental part of our history in the United States, our short history that we have going back to the Constitution. Our country was founded on the idea that we should limit the power of governments, and that when you concentrate power, bad things can happen. And so you need to have a document that specifically highlights the boundaries of what governments can do and then what people do. And so I think we've really, in the Air Force, the military, you'll hear people talk about mission creep, and things over time just kind of creep. Mm-hmm. You see it happen with bureaucracies, right? It just kind of gets bigger and bigger. We've seen it happen with the federal government. I mean, look at what the federal government was, at the time of the Declaration of Independence, the ratification of the Constitution, and then how much things have been expanded. I think we see the same thing happening with technology. It's not really an accident that I cited Snowden on that, because the Snowden releases have given us a whole bigger window into what the U.S. government and other governments have done and continue to do. And it's on one side, it's really important that we do continue to restrain our government, and that we raise up a generation of students who are knowledgeable about that and aren't just like, whatever. Because one thing that is happening is we've had some governments talk about how they don't want to have the internet. Like they want to make people have data in their country where they can control it. They don't want to trust, the outside. And it really would threaten the internet if, everybody kind of cordons things off and starts to say, well, this whole data in the cloud thing and this whole, access people stuff all over the place really, is not going to work for us. So I don't know. It's and then leading by fear. We've had so much of that. So I don't know if any other thoughts on that as far as encryption or
Wes, the one thing I don't know if do you watch House of Cards ever on Netflix?
What? My wife is the Netflix fanatic in our house, and I'm the pretender. I have very little television literacy, but sometimes I watch with her. So you'll have to inform me. You can sway.
Okay, well, so the new episode, and it's not a spoiler or anything, but the new episode, the new series of it's like got Kevin Spacey in it, and one of the things the candidate that was trying to run against him was using that was one of their things. They were kind of using this guy who I guess must be like some kind of a Google, fake Google person. And they were using like keywords and stuff to get the stories out that they wanted to, and kind of like manipulating search data so that, and finding out what people are searching for, so they could find out what resonated with like voters and candidates and stuff.
Oh
You got to
gosh.
wonder how much of that is there, right? And
Check your cell phone. Please leave me a message. Thank you.
Trying to call Jason again. It's huge, and you do have insights. My wife just finished watching every episode of NCIS. Have you checked that
right.
one out? So and there's so much. Of course, some of it's over the top, but you think it might be, but the capabilities of our government that are unclassified far outstrip probably our perceptions of what is going on and what's happening. So, all right. Well, if you have an article that you want to throw out, I can kind of go down these and sort of. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you can throw. These are kind of interesting. I was just looking at these. I haven't looked. I look at the Twitters all the time, but some of these were. I mean, I think the Tesla thing is very interesting. I've seen a lot of stuff on the Teslas, and I don't know if you saw the video of the guys. There was the guys that were actually letting the self-driving car go, and they were kind of. It must have been on like TechCrunch or something, but it looked really cool, and it did amazing.
A few years ago, I did a thing when I was teaching STEM the last 2 years called Curiosity Links, where I just kind of share a cool video or an article or whatever, and it would just be like a wow. And that was one where it was like it was a car and driver or something. It was at night. Is that the one you saw where they punched it and demonstrated?
Yeah, it was crazy.
So if people don't know, Tesla announced the Model 3 this last week. I actually saw it live thanks to the Twitters.
Oh, wow.
And if you're not familiar with Elon Musk, he's seeking to change many things in the world. The joke was that he wants to die on Mars, but not on impact. So he wants us to colonize Mars and really empower, basically cut down the price of getting things into orbit, satellites and just the whole space travel thing. So there's been some there's exciting developments there. But he originally put together the Roadster, which was like $100,000 plus car that only Al Gore and really really rich people could afford. And then they needed to have a proof of concept and they could do this and make money. And then the Model S was still pretty expensive, like $70,000, $80,000, but it's a sedan. But their whole goal has been to get to a consumer car, which they had said about 30,000. I think now they're saying 35,000. But he's, in addition to getting this car, which has over 200 miles of range, they're building the superchargers, which we've got two in Oklahoma City. I think we've got one. Well, one is north of us, north of Guthrie, and then I think there might be one actually on I-40 down, west of downtown. But these are completely free. Charge up for in a couple hours. What would take a long time on your on your regular. I don't know if I was to, and I'm so happy with my job. I got to start being a tech director, John, in July, and it's good. It's wonderful. In fact, I've been trying to be very careful with things I tweet and social media things. Not that I want to be muzzled, but
right.
You want the politics are very, they're different in a private school, and there's all kinds of things going on. But when it comes to this whole thing as far as Tesla and thinking about electric cars and thinking about the future, I think solar energy is such a huge part of the future. I mean, we've got a lot of good wind. In fact, the last 2 days in Oklahoma have been great wind days. Not good days to come and visit and say, hey, wouldn't you love to move here? But if you have a wind farm, you're probably having to ratchet down your windmills to say, look, we can't handle this much energy. But anyway, it's one, technology is moving faster than any of us can keep up with, and I think the transition to electric cars is going to be here sooner rather than later. Obviously, for our state, or maybe this isn't obvious to everyone, but for our state, that will be bad news. Think Saudi Arabia, think Nigeria, think Venezuela. These countries and states that are highly dependent upon oil revenue, ultimately stand to lose a lot. It's going to be. It's going to be interesting. So we're probably not going to be getting a new car, in the next few years since we've got kids going to college. But I think the Tesla revolution in electric cars is a pretty big deal. Do you guys have more electric cars up there in the Northwest? I mean, have you seen more up there?
Portlandia is not just a show. There's a lot of truth drawn from it, and we have a lot of places that have the electric charging stations where you can park right by a handicap spot, and they have the electric charger right there, and it's very big here. I mean, the number one car here is like the Subaru, of course, because that when I lived in Alaska, it was the same way too. But yeah, there's a lot of electric cars up here. I mean, that's something Portland is very into, like environmental things, and they have Allison Anderson has her when I used to come and visit her, and we don't have it in Beaverton, but in Portland they have like the composting that you're supposed to be composting in your house, and she has her little compost pile, and
Nice.
they don't even get her garbage every week. It's like every other week, which would we have 4 small kids. That would kill us if we didn't get our garbage every week, and the recycling and things like that. But yeah, the recycling and all that stuff is really big up here. So yeah, there's a lot of electric cars. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, it'll be cool. It'll be cool to see.
Well, one of the articles that's also on the site, and again, if you want to tune into that on your browser, it's edtechsr.com/links, is this article actually from today from the Washington Post saying Tesla's Model 3 orders are through the roof. Here's what that means for the planet. And, 276,000 pre-orders at $1,000 a piece, I think is what you had to put down.
Wow.
So there's $2.7 million, for Tesla. And I was reading some other articles or hearing people talk about, what a smart guy Elon Musk is, because one of the things that you want for new endeavors is investment in the stock market. Are you going to be successful? And so taking all these pre-orders, I think the focus of that article is along the lines of what you were just talking about, as far as green energy and, carbon dioxide emissions and all that. And I'll say this, one of the things that I've become more aware of, in part because of listening to Musk and just following climate change stuff. I mean, I remember not arguing, but having a discussion with our school custodian, one of our custodians, a couple years ago. And she was just like, oh, but it's not warming because we had this colder winter and all this. It's climate change is not about, is it colder or hotter where you live? It's about the amount of carbon that has been released in the atmosphere, and Musk uses those. He did on the announcement of the Model 3, it is going vertical. It's exponential. And so that whole thing about trapped carbon, and I don't know, there's important STEM lessons. It's highly political here in Oklahoma to talk about climate change, but.
Oh, sure. I was thinking he, like, the way he funded that, he almost did like his own personal Kickstarter.
Oh gosh.
Here, we'll put you on the list.
And it was the magic of Apple, right? Like I felt the Steve Jobs mojo. Unfortunately, I did listen to his the biography. I'm trying to remember who wrote it.
Walter Isaacson.
No, it was the other one. It was No, I'm not talking about the Jobs one I did, but this is the Elon Musk. There's an Elon Musk biography. Right. Yeah. And both he and Steve sure struggled with their personal lives. So, you don't want to idealize any human being to just put them on a pedestal and worship them. But he definitely is a savvy guy, and he's pushing change, and pushing innovation. So it's I would say this. I think we want our kids, just like kids today should know who Steve Jobs was. They should know who Elon Musk is and know about the changes that he's making, and also know, hey, this guy's a coder, right? Here's a guy who immigrated from South Africa, made his way to Canada, got to the United States, got his citizenship, but, made his first break with PayPal. And if you look at iteration and the ways in which he's, built stuff, and some things have failed and succeeded, it's just it's a pretty exciting thing. And I was in Brazil a couple weeks ago for spring break.
Ooh, nice.
I went down there for a STEM institute. And so I shared curiosity links after lunch with the teachers. And we had about 22 participants, and over half the teachers didn't really know Elon Musk and what he's about. And so I would guess, I mean, that's not a representative sample, but, if you were to ask at your school, hey, do you guys know about Elon Musk? I mean, being able to let people know about that, and then I don't know, just thinking the whole thing about careers and role models, what do you want to be when you grow up? And thinking about this could be something your parents weren't, you could do what your parents do, or you could do what others in your community do, but there's other possibilities. So I think that's probably a good takeaway from that as well, is just kind of sharing news and then following what's up, what's happening with that.
So Wes, I looked it up for you. It's Ashley Vance was the author. Is that
there
the one?
You go. That is the one.
Magic of Google.
All right.
I'll have to look at that one. That's good. I've been trying to read a little bit more. It's hard sometimes to read. I know we all have the same amount of time in a day, but I used to read so voraciously, and it's just once my second child kicked in, it seems like I just.
Well, I hardly ever read long form, but I listen, so that
maybe I need to try that.
Audible. Yeah. A few years ago when I was teaching a class down in Denton, Texas, a professor said, look, you just have to put some time aside and get this PhD thing written. That's when I started an Audible subscription. And by the way, we are not sponsored by anyone, including audible.com. So, we're not doing that on the podcast.
It probably would though.
We may later.
I'd be like, yeah.
Well, they might. And I love
enter this code. Enter a code. There's codes out there for Audible.
Sure. We should.
Download your first book for
Maybe
free.
We will. Yeah, because we set this up to say, yeah, that's right. Brought to you by audible.com.
That's right.
But I do listen to more books and the Elon Musk book, and then The Pentagon's Brain. That's the one that I recently finished, which is the uncensored history of DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Agency. Okay, I'm going to shift gears here for us, and I'm going to go to the article that's Ethics of 3D Printing in Veterinary Medicine. And so I'll kind of set this up and then toss it to you to see what you think.
Okay.
One of my takeaways this is from 3dprint.com on March 28th. One of my takeaways from listening or whatever to reading that Pentagon's Brain and all about DARPA is that, oh my gosh, ethics in STEM is huge. It was about a year and a half ago that the United Nations in Geneva, Switzerland actually had a multi-day conference on killer robots and whether or not the United Nations should specifically ban autonomous robots, which, by the way, we have right now on the DMZ, the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea. The U.S. Army has robots that are authorized to kill on the DMZ. That's just one example. But, this particular article was interesting because it wasn't actually talking about autonomous weapons. It was talking about veterinary veterinary genetics, and saying that with 3D printing and with the ways in which we're able. Here's a quote from Professor Fitzpatrick, who, let's see, what's his citation here? The UK's super vet. It's increasingly possible to save an animal's life in circumstances that just a few years ago would have been seen as necessary terminal. And then his quote is, "The bottom line now is that anything is possible if you have a blood and nerve supply. That means we now have a line in the sand. Not what's possible, but what is right. In the past, it was the case of if it wasn't possible, you'd move to euthanasia. But with pets, what's interesting about this is, we don't ascribe many rights to pets. So it's sort of like, sorry, Fido, you swallowed that sock. We're not paying the $2,000. It's curtains for you.
You're done. Yeah, you're done for it.
So again, it's like technology sort of outpacing where we are with our thinking. So I don't know. You have any thoughts about 3D printing, the implications for your pets, or other sectors? And maybe you guys are doing it. You're progressive in the Northwest. You probably already require everyone to take ethics in STEM, starting at the 4th grade.
That's right. We have an ethics in STEM seminar I'm doing tomorrow for our kindergartners.
That's right.
Well, you know what? It's funny because we were just talking. We do this cool film festival called Signal to Noise in our district. And so in the beginning, we have this whole thing, and we were talking about bringing our 3D printers just today. That's one of the things we were talking about. And it's just interesting how much the 3D printing, one of our great teachers, I don't know if you know, we have this really cool teacher, and his name is G. Bundy. He's done a few things up at travels with the EdTech team and things like that. Do you know G? You don't know G? Okay.
Here, come here. You wanted to say hi to Shelly. Come say hi to.
Oh, I did.
Say hi to Shelly.
Hey, Shelly, what's going on? Hey, I was talking about
ya?
you. I was talking about you earlier this week in your podcast.
Hey, how are you, iPad Sammy?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Sam is on Twitter now.
I
Yeah,
know that.
But he was giving you props for your podcast. So
I was giving your podcast props, and I think we're going to spread it. And I use your sample, just so you know that when we have our district of 40,000, I'm using you as my go-to number one sample for opinion.
Awesome. Hey, you can hire me to come speak to your group. I'm in the money-making business now. Seriously, I have a son to put through college. So
okay, that sounds good. Well, if I do, then I will definitely give you and Wes a call.
Something that's really cool is now that I'm starting to have my kids actually listen to kids' podcasts, and we're sketchnoting, and so trying to take it back on the other side too. So. Listening.
Okay, when I get my kids running, maybe we'll trade across.
Yeah, that would be fabulous.
Podcast pen pals.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, we'll instead of Skyping, we'll just podcast. We'll just switch podcast. We'll make up our own little thing.
Super, that sounds great. Yeah, let's try it.
Keep up the good work. Yeah.
All right, well, thanks.
I was using it. I was like, that's awesome.
Awesome, thanks.
No problem.
So, what kind of 3D printers do you guys have? 3D printers now, or are you looking at doing them? Getting them?
I think we bought the MakerBot is what I think we got. We got 2 of the MakerBots, and we were just talking about the 3D printing. Now the ethics with the animals, I see the Chihuahua kind of in the roller skate.
I don't know. They had to just grab a Flickr picture for that.
Right. I mean that doesn't seem like that's 3D printing or anything. But the things that you can print, like we were G Bundy was printing up like little. We were talking about like he made a Millennium Falcon. And then he made it 2-sided and then put like the little LED light in so that it could do and kind of did the little pin thing. And it does. You can just kind of print whatever. If you can do it on that Tinkercad software or whatever, you can really print some cool stuff.
Yeah, and Tinkercad is what we use, and we've had last summer was the first time that we had 3D printing available. Our librarian offered a class for students. We're doing that again, and kids are starting to, they're kind of infiltrating, so they can say, hey, could I do, instead of the shoebox diorama or whatever, poster, could I do this as a 3D printed object? And so, it's good.
I don't know. I mean, I think if you can save, an animal's life, I mean, if it's feasible that it can live pain-free or whatever, I mean, I think that, how much is the 3D? If you 3D print like some kind of a valve or something, and it helps them stay alive longer, I think there's definitely people in Portland. They love their dogs up here. They would take that and run with it and be like, yes, we want to keep little Fido alive as long as humanly possible.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know. It's interesting though. I mean, yeah, I never thought of that. Just going like, okay, we can save an animal with 3D printing. That's crazy to me.
And the whole thing about having, pieces of technology that are going to, augment you it's called transhumanism, also cyborgs, and there was a conference in Austin. I should get that link to put in the chat for people who have put stuff in, because you remember the that movie Firefox that had Eastwood in it, and he was the pilot that controlled the plane with his mind or whatever. I mean that stuff is coming, and augmentation of the brain. Like my youngest daughter learned in science class that most people have 3 cones in their eyes to see color, but some people have a 4th cone and they can see all these additional parts of the spectrum. But I mean, the military now is looking at augmenting what you can see so that you could see in the ultraviolet or the infrared and night vision and all that. And it's going to be incredible looking at how this plays out, because we might have talked about this in our last show, but with science, it's sort of like in ethics, not can it be done, but who will do it? Because if it's possible to do, probably somebody's going to do it. And anyway, there's a whole lot of. I'm thinking more about ethics now for sure when it comes to STEM, and so I think that we need to find ways to be talking about it, because none of us are. Society as a whole is not going to be ahead of this. We're going to be playing catch up, and so
it's very interesting. It almost reminds me of the April Fool's joke with the Google plastic when you talk about the fourth cone in your eye. Did you see the Google?
No,
was
was that for this year? I missed the Google April Fool's.
So the whole thing was they have, instead of Google Cardboard now, they have Google Plastic, which was just a big plastic box, and you could see things in 360, and they just have like, you know, a big plastic goggle on, and they're like, you can talk to people and interact with them, you know, and just making fun of like interpersonal conversation and how you really can, you know, unplug and do all these things. But nice. Yeah, that was the Google Plastic joke. So
there you go. Okay, well, I'm gonna drop a link into a Verge article where they've got that. They have the video. So that is always a favorite April Fool's Day pastime, is seeing what Google comes up with. And John, if you want to, we started a little late, so we'll go a little bit past the top of the hour. But if you want to come up with a Geek of the Week, which is just kind of a link to share, or it could be a gadget, you know, whatever like that, you can go ahead and drop that into the doc. Okay. And then if you want to also put your contact information at the top or bottom, then I will include that when I put this together with the show notes. Do you do a show with Blab now, or what is Techlandia powered by? Are you guys still Google Hangouting or whatever, hanging out?
Right. I mean, and you know what, Wes, you were one of our first guests, actually. I mean, you and Tony were among our first when we started really like thinking maybe we need to interview people now, and it was, you know, Allison, Kurt Reeves, and myself, and now we have. Administrator of the Year, Amy Fidesi, and we have David Terrio from California. So I'm with people on the West Coast now, since we're in the same time zone. And then we've been using Blab for quite a while for all our podcasts. Google Hangouts just wasn't being as usual. It wasn't going as rapidly as I wanted it to. So
the mailbox is full and cannot accept.
Sorry, I was trying to get. So tell me that one more time. You said the Hangout's not working. What are you doing? You're doing Blab?
We're full on Blab with everything right now. We've been using Blab for a pretty long time. I'd say probably about the last 5 or 6 months we've been using Blab, and we went away from Google Hangouts. And these are so much easier to join and schedule.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You know? Well, Zoom. In fact, tonight my wife is on the search committee for our new pastor, and we've set up the video conferences. I think it was at his end. He had some connectivity issues, and they had to go to phone. But I am in love with Zoom when you want somebody to join a call that's not public and you can record it. But for doing shows like this, the fact that this can go right to YouTube, you know, makes it just as good as a Hangout and infinitely easier to be able to join. And so it's good stuff.
The thing that did it for me was we used to get, you know, you get the audio file like emailed to you. And that used to be a whole step for me. I'd go to one of those old sites and I'd wait for the clip for the Google Hangout on Air to upload to YouTube, and then I'd strip all the audio out. Well, now I don't have to. They can email this to me, and now I can. I really like Blab, and you know what? All they got to do for me was it's not a podcast without sound effects.
Oh, that's right. So you can. That's right, because you need those sound effects. So
I need it because I'm not very interesting, so I need sound effects.
But there's Soundflower. There are ways if you want to.
Yeah, I just put my iPad Pro in now with the big iButtons app, and I have my one, so you can play it loud enough when I have my Snowball hooked up. Well, usually I have my Snowball hooked up.
That's right. You're sounding great tonight without it. Well, Tech with Chad just texted in that Blab can be private as well. So that's
just a new feature.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome. All right. Yeah. Well, I dropped links for the Signal to Noise Film Festival in Beaverton, Oregon, and I dropped the link into for the Google Celebrates April Fools with Cardboard Plastic. If you want to drop in a link to your show, what is the schedule for your show, John, when you guys do that?
So, oh gosh, our show is so sporadic. So we just uploaded Amy Berval. Usually we've been trying on like 7 o'clock Pacific time on Mondays, but it can vary just depending on our schedules. And then Scott Bedley and I do Grumpy Old Teachers.
Nice.
And Scott Bedley, where we just kind of free flow and we do some things, and we usually do that at about 11 o'clock Pacific, so it's like 1 a.m. your time, West.
Okay, but we'll catch that one on the podcast probably.
Yeah, that's
I'm trying to work on self-care, so yeah, I probably won't be up live for that. Is Scott Bedley who you have collaborated with? Yeah, Shelley connected with him via Ed Camp Voxer over the Christmas holidays this year.
Nice.
And their classes have connected on KidBlog, and what we were doing the math. What was that math thing you were doing? Something about gallery math. Anyway, he's awesome. So he's
incredible. He's incredible, and he's a really good person to follow. He's here. I'll put his link in here, but I'll put it in there too. He's at Scott Teach on the Twitters, but he's an incredible guy. And I normally just, when I'm on podcasts, I normally just rail on him and give him miserable and just, he's like, boy, you can just openly insult me on podcasts or whatever. On Techlandia, I will. On this podcast, I'll be respectful and say he's a great teacher. If you ever want to like trade Skype classrooms and do mystery Skypes and just any kind of Skypes, he knows all these authors too. He reminds me a lot of like Colby Sharp from Nerdy Book Club is also one of those people that could just connect you with anybody, and he gets all these authors coming in. Scott's like the West Coast version of Colby Sharp. I feel like Jenny Holm, like I think came in and visited his class just like because she was in the area. I'm like, nobody even knows who I am. But he's Scott Bedley, and Scott Bedley's good stuff. So
that's awesome. And the Bedley Brothers podcast is one. Yeah, that's how I discovered him, was through the Bedley Brothers.
Yeah, he's great. This brother Tim's great too.
Well, I'm going to throw out one more article, and then we can do some Geeks of the Week if you've got one.
Okay. I think I've got one. I'm looking right now.
Okay, good. So the last article I'll throw out is Facebook announces video for all. This was a Newsroom Facebook article. I think Jason actually tossed this one out. And then a related one that I had read and tweeted was an Apple Insider article from today. Facebook doubles down on live streaming with new features for groups, events, and interactivity. And so, just the tech side of this is companies want to control video. It's a huge platform. In fact, my son gave me all these lessons. We went to Ohio this weekend looking at school and Snapchat. I hadn't played with Snapchat, and I did all this Snapchat and learn stuff. But Facebook would like us to not only doing text and those picture updates, but video and live stream. We're seeing the Snapchat app now support streaming audio and streaming video, and so of course in a lot of schools all this stuff is going to be blocked.
Right.
But the whole thing about, I don't know, I guess one implication might be how do you leverage the potential to bring in live content or impromptu content? I mean, just what you were talking about, John, with Scott and others networking, thinking about authors, thinking about, how do we connect to the curriculum? There's the digital citizenship side of this, like you are the product, and, Facebook wants to farm your information and, have you sell you to prospective advertisers and then subject you to ads. There's that whole side of it. But do you have any thoughts on Facebook video, and then also these apps and just what's happening as far as Periscope, live streaming?
Well, so the interesting thing is we were I went to have you been to the Q conference, the National Q conference out in Palm Springs at all?
I would love to go, and if you could visit with someone to say, hey, why don't you invite Wes? Because really, the only time I was in 2007, my cousin and I went to Macworld, and because of some ADE connections, I got to present a little bit at the Q educator portion of Macworld. Of course, that was when Jobs announced the iPhone, and it was just so awesome to be there. But there's only a couple times I've been to California, and I have never been to a Q or a Q Rockstar.
So I will tell you that the Q stuff, I mean, right, you would obviously talk to John Corripo, who's awesome, and Mike Lawrence, obviously, is the director of Q. But so I've been going for the last 3 years. I like to go there because I talk, that's when I can see Scott Bedley, and we can just kind of talk in person a little bit, face to face. But one of the things that we did last year before was I sat in, and there's a great duo from San Diego, Ruben Hoffman and Dan McDowell. And so I sat in the front row of their session, and it was before Periscope, actually, and I had Meerkat, which was the same thing, but it was, Meerkat wasn't, run by Twitter at that point then. So, and Periscope came out probably about a month later, but I sat there with my phone, and I'm like, why don't we just Meerkat this? And I asked their permission, and I sat in the front row, and I just kind of did Dan and Ruben's session. They said that was totally fine. And so I like the live stream. I used to do it all the time. I don't do it as much anymore, but I really feel like Tony Vincent's Periscopes are some of the best things that I've seen. And it's like PD that I would pay for, but he just does it for free. And he was doing something the other day, and it's just every time that he's on there, and I get a little Periscope notice, I just think it's incredible. So I think it's good learning opportunities. And then sometimes with the Facebook ads, I buy the stuff because it's what I want. So,
right.
So like,
sure.
And I'm like, I'm really glad that I sometimes I'm sad because I don't like to be inundated with stuff to buy. But then other times I'm like, wow, I really want to buy the block for my students and have them build video games. So I'll pay the $50 and buy it. And we bought it, and it's tremendous. So I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't know about it otherwise. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Tech with Chad, said he did his first live stream to his private Facebook group today. So that was pretty cool. And echoes what you were just saying about Tony and his Periscope. Is Tony using Catch to archive beyond the 24 hours, or does he just straight up Periscope and that's it?
Okay, so Tech with Chad says yes. So yeah, I think they're great. I love Tony's. And
if people don't know about Catch, it's KATCH, and basically you just hook your Twitter to it, and then it'll grab every Periscope that you do and put it up where it'll be available after 24 hours. Did Meerkat die, John, or what happened? Yeah,
I think once Periscope came along and then Twitter bought it, I think it was.
Twitter did buy it. They bought it to kill it. Isn't that nice?
Right. So I thought that was kind of bad. I still have Meerkat though. It's right here on my phone actually. So I do still have it right there. And this is a new phone. So I just update. You know how you sometimes just have a ton of apps. Now I've kind of updated. So it's still out there, but Periscope's killing it because.
Yeah. Well, this stuff has been around for a while. I remember playing with Ustream back in 2009 at Cozen and at ISTE and doing at ISTE that year. I had this whole bunch of equipment, to be able to bring the tripod and the, what was that? The Firewire digital camera. I went to a pawn shop, to get a new get a Firewire camera and all this stuff. And anyway, the whole convergence, being able to do everything on your phone is just amazing. So, I haven't had too many problems. There's really on a Google Hangout, in the last year, a friend of mine was doing one for pre-service teachers, and he accidentally tweeted out the join link, and we had a troll join. So, but other than that, I haven't run into much trouble. So, well, why don't we've had a few new viewers join. Maybe somebody's tweeted something out. The word got out that John Samuelson live was going to be on this obscure show. Oh, it was my wife. Shelly said it was her. She showed up.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Well, yeah, everybody listens to Shelly.
Well, why don't we do some Geeks of the Week, and I'll go first and then kick it over to you. My Geek of the Week is JuniorTube EDU, which I put in the show notes, curated and partitioned. I think I misspelled partitioned. It's supposed to be partitioned. YouTube playlist. Okay, here's the idea. YouTube, full of great stuff, full of garbage. A lot of teachers and IT departments and administration nervous, not wanting to do YouTube. We have used YouTube for Kids, which is a nice app that has more young kids stuff. But what if you want to share things with your students? Now, we have not done YouTube for schools on our campus. It got deprecated or kind of like faded away, and then last summer I heard it was coming back. I don't really know where all of that stands, but this app I think is pretty smart. It uses an enrollment code. So as a teacher, you can create a playlist. You can share it to your what did I just call it? JuniorTube account. And then students will have access to just those videos that you have put on your playlist. And then they're also kind of like YouTube has YouTube Education, and they've got channels of curated, approved content. So it's a way to filter YouTube, but you as the teacher can create a custom playlist. And I've thought for a while now that one of the core competencies of teachers should not only be it's even before you produce video and put stuff out there, because that scares people. don't just share videos, but curate, kind of like we'd say, let's make a bookmark list, let's use Delicious or Digo and start, archiving, links and stuff. I think being able to build playlists and then sharing playlists to students and then being able to use it in the classroom is a great thing. So if you have iPads or using iOS devices, this is an app that will let you do that. We have not tested it at our school, and I had intended to do that this week, and now I'm going to have to travel and won't be able to do it. But that's my Geek of the Week, and I'm very excited about things that are going to give teachers more flexibility with YouTube content and possibly be a door opener for districts that may have had that door closed for that content.
Right. So big to have YouTube availability. In our district, I feel very fortunate that we do have YouTube availability. It's one of those battles that you don't have to fight. So I think that's nice. But yeah, that's cool. All right. I think that's awesome. See, look, I'm learning so much I didn't know about Catch. I didn't know about this. That's awesome.
Good deal. That's why podcasts can be good. So
that's why it's a good deal.
What is your Geek of the Week?
Okay, so I think you might. All right, so this is a person I just stumbled across. However you stumble across people by accident, but I think that you will really appreciate this. So this is Irv Spanish, and Irv Spanish on Twitter, and I put the link in there and I typed it in. And I think if you go to his YouTube channel, Wes, you'll really enjoy it because he's doing a whole series of Minecraft videos that are catered to the ESL crowd. So that's why he's Irv Spanish. So he has all these different videos where he's doing for the ELL, the ESL learner, and it just looks really cool. And it looks like, his YouTube channel is, if you look at it, it's just tremendous. He has so many videos on there that he's putting on, and he hasn't made so it's he has the Minecraft Minute for the second language teacher, and it just looks really cool, all those videos, and it looks like he just keeps putting them up constantly. So I like the ones that are active. Like his last one was just 4 days ago. He uploaded 3 different videos. So
fantastic.
I think it's really cool. I know, and it's that always reminds me of you because I know that you're the big Minecraft person. You're the person that got me interested a long time ago before it was really in vogue. Because you're kind of ahead of the crowd like that. You're doing podcasting, I think, way before it was in vogue. You know what I'm saying? Where people do it now, and I feel like you kind of paved the way for people, and I feel like that's kind of what you do sometimes. Hey. So I feel like that's Wes Fryer to me. Wes Fryer knows about stuff before it's cool.
It's only because I get to watch great shows like Techlandia and hang out with people like you, and we get to hang out with people like Tony, right? We'll just pass.
Oh my gosh,
pass the love to Tony. So.
Oh my gosh, I can't say enough about Tony.
Shelly was going to jump right on if she's like, "Is Tony on the call?" She has a big crush on him, so don't tell her.
Okay. If you could, you can't not have a crush on Tony. He's such a handsome gentleman.
That's right.
And he is. His website, and I see that Tech with Chad, learninginhand.com. And I love his Instagram feed even now, Wes. Have you seen his Instagram that he comes out with and he does the cartoon stuff?
He puts the bar so high for all of us, which is great. It shows what's possible. And as Tech with Chad just said, he's so helpful and willing to reach out. Well, okay, so I have to do one more Geek of the Week, which I'm kind of notorious for. I can't just do one. But since you mentioned Minecraft, have you seen our daughter Rachel's Minecraft channel, John? Have you seen Rachel Artist?
No.
Okay, so she has almost 400 subscribers. I put the link into the doc, and she has really become this screencasting machine. And it was funny because when Alexander and I were gone, she texted me, and she was afraid someone had gone onto our server. We have an older Mac laptop that we're running the Minecraft server on, and she's done some. Probably cold. Well, we looked on the log. It was this digital citizenship thing because I was like, "Hun, we'll look at the log. We'll see if anybody else logged in." Because our son Alexander said it was probably a creeper that blew up. Anyway, we looked at the log, and nobody else had logged in. So anyway, something else had happened. But she is really into that. So are you going to be at ISTE this year, John?
I am going to be at ISTE this year. Denver's a good spot for me because that's where my in-laws live, so we get free room and board.
Well, we could. That's a great thing. We've got our Airbnb already set up where we're going to be. So, well, maybe we can do an EdTech situation room from the Bloggers Cafe. I was thinking that Shelley, or who wants to see that? My wife says. That Rachel really wants to teach people about kind of what she's done with her YouTube channel, and so I'm gonna, if they do that ad hoc thing, where you can kind of sign up for a
right
session,
like they used to. I remember. Oh man, that was I love that. They should do more of that. I think they should really do more of that. But yeah, definitely with students, right? Not with just teachers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's good stuff. So, okay. Well, any closing pearls of wisdom? Again, for those thinking about Oregon, just, fantasizing about being a pioneer, just, picking up their stakes. Is it all that it's cracked up to be? Is it more than you dreamed? What do you say as the westward, we'll say, I was going to say the westward ho, pioneer, but we won't say that. No, it's that is kind of what I am. Well, I mean, I don't know if I would suggest anybody to do it like I did, but yes, we do like Oregon, and it's really nice. And you know what? When we were down at Q, we do have like a position as an innovation strategist open, and there were some people that were kind of like, oh, California's really expensive, or oh, here I could move from here. So I was kind of I always try and recruit people up here so we can do this thing. And you see, I've got my little future ready shirt on. This is our Beaverton one. Ooh, but, you're looking very, very tech.
Yeah,
I've got my MIT shirt.
Yes, I saw that too. But so we have, and I was just touring ours today. I saw we have our Beaverton School District Maker bus, our future bus, that's going to start going around. They've gutted the whole thing. They put in some nice floors, and I'm getting really excited because I think that by next year I'll be licensed and I'll be driving the future bus. And we'll be doing little maker things and all sorts of things. So
awesome.
Yeah, I love Oregon, and I really like my job right now. It was really good. It was a good fit for me.
That's awesome. Well, we want to give a shout out to Tech with Chad, who has a show here on Blab as well. He stuck with us the whole show. Thank you so much, Chad. And Mr. Nessie, Christopher J. Nessie, who does the House of EdTech podcast, has joined us here at the close. So thank you guys.
Yeah,
there's the link for the next one. And yes, let's hear it for podcasting, right? Yes.
That's right.
Not only good for our own professional development, but great to do with our students and get them, using media to learn and share their voice and develop their fluency and literacy skills and all that great stuff. So
you know what? Somebody should write a book about that, using media in the classroom. I wonder who could do that. Right?
Playing media. Who would ever do that?
I
heard some guy did something about that a few years ago, but it had this thing called Posterous in it, and it's pretty much all out of date now. So I heard a rumor he's gonna maybe redo that sometime.
Ooh, that would be good.
Yeah, but my wife says only if it pays for college. So you can see what the things are in our house.
She is laser focused on the college.
She is ready for money, maybe. All right. Well, John, thank you so much for joining. This was awesome. I love impromptu. Glad we were able to carry it forward. Our show is usually, at the same time, 9 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Mountain, and, extrapolate to the coast if you want on Wednesday nights. And next week I will be in Fort Worth, but I think I will be able to tune in, and we're going to hope that the awesome Jason Neiffer, digs his way out of the Montana digital ditch that he was in tonight, and we will get him connected again. And we probably will never have the same person on two screens, because for those of you that may watch this video or be joining, I had Soundflower set up on the laptop so that, Jason could call in via his phone, but for some reason the tech overlords were against Jason today. Yeah. But hey, it brought us John Samuelson, so what a blessing that is. So,
all right. Thanks, Wes. I appreciate this.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure. See you, Shelley.